Good morning, my name's Linda and I'm in beautiful Brisbane, Australia at the moment, and today we're going to look at, has your brain been hijacked? This is especially for people who've suffered trauma in their life, complex PTSD especially, and definitely PTSD as well. And I want to take you through a process today where we understand what it is to be hijacked, what happens in our brain when we're hijacked, and how we can get off the loop when hijacking happens, okay? So I'll just pull up our information for today. Now we're going to be reclaiming our mindset, okay? So our hijacked brain, the brain doesn't do what we want it to do. The body's still holding on to distress. So we can have nightmares, we have flashbacks, we have the startle response happening, like we get the heck scared out of us, and we have a preoccupation with the trauma. Now we don't always have a preoccupation with the trauma, as in thinking about the event, but the preoccupation can also appear as, why am I still being held back by what happened to me so long ago? For me, it was so long ago, but for others, it may even be in their more immediate, not future, past. And so when all of those things are happening, this is what's happening inside your brain. So if the experience in your life is not traumatic, so think of all the things in your life that you've enjoyed, the experiences that you've enjoyed, when we're having an experience in life, the adrenaline and other neurochemicals rush to the brain to print a picture there, a picture story. So when you think of picture story, think of a movie. You know, when we sit down and watch a movie, it's ongoing, okay? So at this point in time, if you were on a roller coaster, all your sensory information says that when you look around you, when you feel, when you listen, I don't know that we're tasting much on a roller coaster, when we're touching what's in front of us, all of that information's coming into our brain, and it can compute things like fear, speed, stress, excitement. Well, excitement if you're like me and you love roller coasters. And all in all, it's non-life threatening, okay? So, and you'll know it'll be over in 3 minutes. So your amygdala, which is your emotional center in your brain, reads the emotional significance of this event and files it away, because your prefrontal cortex, which is all your rational, logical, is still connected to the amygdala. And so it's like you've got a nice filing cabinet over here, and you pull out the drawer and your brain goes, right, file that in there for experience number 105. And then in the future, you can go back, pull that experience out of the drawer, makes you feel good, and it creates a memory. And if you've got other people around you, you've created memories that you connect with them, and it's great, right? However, when we have a trauma experience in our life, our memories become stored as sensory fragments. So that nice filing cabinet that we've had, where all our non-traumatic experiences are filed away and they're safe, the trauma experiences are floating around the outside of that filing cabinet because they're so overwhelming to every sense that all the senses are there, okay, floating around, but you haven't been able to connect the story. So the sensory fragments are misinterpreted because the prefrontal cortex isn't engaged, right? So the logic is lost. And it's like having, when you're watching a movie and your Wi-Fi keeps cutting in and out, okay? It's all fragmented, isn't it? And you get frustrated. And that's just the beginning, until we can get the Wi-Fi happening. Well, a trauma experience is like the Wi-Fi being intermittent. That's what happened, okay? So we couldn't get a whole picture story in there, okay? So we've got fragments. running around the brain that get triggered. Okay, so trauma occurs and we enter into either a fight, flight, or freeze state. Okay, now I can really relate to the freeze state where I don't move. I become immobilized, like physically, mentally, every way. There's just nothing there. And people can ask me a question, and if I'm in that state, it really takes a lot to get the logical brain to work. All right? So the prefrontal cortex is not just about logic, it's where our consciousness lives, reasoning, and our language. So for me, if I'm in the freeze mode, then I've got no language. I can't talk. I've been triggered. Okay? So one of those sensory fragments get triggered and then everything seems to shut down. Right? That's number one. Now, let's get into the meat and bones of this. Now, I actually wrote all of this out in full so that you could go back and reread it again and again and again, because even talking about this can make triggers happen, but you're in charge. And when we reread this information again, we're creating that emotional sensation and we're going, oh, we're having aha moments. And then the more we read it, the more the logical brain is able to put things together, the more we can get sensory fragments joined together and fold away, okay? But it takes time. So if you need to pause this and go back and read it. Now, one of the things I did when I first learnt this information was to write it out as well, because action, all right? But we'll get into that in a minute. Okay, so what happens when we're triggered? The brain becomes disorganised, okay? In the notes it said somewhat disorganised, but for me, the overwhelming feelings come and then I lose organisation altogether. Reclaiming being organised in my day-to-day life is a big learning curve for me, okay? Organisation is not something I've ever had, or it's more not organisation so much as order, okay? So for me, having childhood traumatic experiences ongoing, I never had a chance to learn order, okay? So you think about that. So it's not just organisation. Organisation to me says, I can organise my life. Excuse me. Excuse me. But when I look at order, how I go about and order my day, it's something that I have to actually teach my brain to do, okay? And there's a whole process we can go to do that as well. Now, so when we go into survival mode, which is the fight, flight, or freeze, the reasoning and language structure of the brain shuts down. Okay, it's gone. There's no order for us. The result of the metabolic shutdown is a profound imprinted stress response. Okay, so imagine every time we get triggered, it's triggering our brain to shut down as well. Okay, because all the adrenaline and all the other chemicals are going to the extreme reaches of our body because our brain's saying, you're not safe. You're not safe. Let's go. Let's get out of here. Let's get ready for a fight, okay? And there's nothing at that particular point in time that we've learnt to do. So all of this is things that we're going to have to teach ourselves to do, okay? So what happens then is, because our brain is now saying we're not safe, even though we're an adult, we're at home, we're in a safe environment, we've got to come to understand that the memory is triggered, but it's looping inside our brain. So it's going around and around and around. And it loops in the emotional side of our brain, in the amygdala. That's why we feel highly distressed when we're having an anxiety or a panic attack. Because it doesn't matter how much we're saying, this is not logical, I shouldn't feel this way, it doesn't matter how much we talk about it. It's emotional. Okay, our brain's in its emotional center, and we have to begin dealing with that. So, and that's just what I've said. It's disconnected from the reasoning and cognitive, which is the order as well. So the reasonable part of the brain is unable to help the emotional part of the brain to load together, to work together like that, and move on or get away from the trauma or the trigger, whatever has triggered you. Okay, so talk therapy works when the brain is online and functioning. So we can bring the emotions together with the rational part of our brain, and we can begin to make sense of what happened to us or for us, or any capacity that we need to around the traumatic event. Okay. But when the rational part of the brain is offline, hijacked by the trauma memory, people may not hear words or reasoning or make meaning of events or experiences. So when the deeper regions of the brain are in this state of distress, they are back in the trauma, and their brain and body seems to be in a time warp. Now, if you've ever been triggered, you'll know exactly what this means. You literally can't hear people talking to you. I know I've been sitting in the car, and for whatever reason I got triggered. I have no idea. And my daughter said something to me, and I had to ask her to repeat, because you're aware that somebody talks to you, but you're not exactly aware of what they've said. Okay? But because we as a family communicate well, I was able to say to her, look, I've been triggered, but I don't know why. And at the time, so when you're triggered, use the HALT method, H-A-L-T. Am I feeling hungry, alone? No. Hungry, anger, loneliness, or tired. At that time, I was feeling hungry, and I was a bit tired too. So it makes it easier for the emotional center to get triggered. All right. Now, so how we are going to overcome the trigger when it happens, okay? And even talking about this, I'm like, am I okay? It's taking on new information, and often the brain is challenged by this as well. And I've noticed this as I've gone through learning stuff. So inside of me, I feel, oh, this is so great. This is so good. I now understand what's happening. I now know it's not me. I now know my brain gets hijacked. But then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, is everything okay? This is all new. With the trauma, especially when it's complex trauma over a long period of time, it does take time to order this information into our sensory experience, into the limbic system, which makes it a picture memory and stores it away in that nice filing cabinet. So it takes time for us to restore what's happening and the order in our brain and gain the greater understanding. So when we want to calm the deeper regions of the brain, so we can't look at calming our thoughts and our prefrontal cortex and the consciousness, we've got to actually calm the deeper parts of our brain. So we want to get them out of a hyperarousal state. So if we asked or we were asked questions about the trauma when we're in that state, it won't work. We can't answer. There'll be nothing logical, there'll be no logical sequence of events that comes out of our mouth. Okay, I don't know about you, but I know when I've been in states of hyperarousal, sometimes I can't even hear what people say to me, but I know there are times when I just can't talk. And that's been very challenging in the past, not so much now, but I definitely had a hard time relaying that to somebody, because you feel like you're weird, like what's going on? It just doesn't add up. Okay, so our first goal is to bring oxygen and blood flow back to the brain to start calming the body and accessing the higher regions. Now, calming the body is the thing that you need to start with, all right? The brain is signaling and saying, I'm not safe, you're not safe, get out of here, you know, be aware. Actually, sometimes I feel like it's just sheer terror running through my body. So we want to calm the body so that we can calm the deeper regions of the brain, all right? We do this through taking action. Action reclaims our power because oftentimes through the trauma we have no power, or we feel that we have no power as well, okay? So one of the major things that people have realised, or doctors use these days, is EMDR, which is eye movement, desensitization and reprocessing. Look into it. I have heard quite a number of people who do this, and it really, really helps them. I haven't personally done this. It just was never on my pathway. And what they used to do in the past, now they have machines that help you, but what they used to do in the past was have your eye movement follow your finger, okay, and that would help disconnect the loop, all right? So you want to get out of the loop of being triggered. Try it, see if it works, but also speak to a doctor about EMDR. Every country will be different, so go and speak to somebody who's qualified to talk to you about it, research up about it, see if it's something that you would, well, I don't know that you could say enjoy, but something that you think would help you get into the deeper parts of your brain and help get you out of the loop, okay? Now, there's also sensory motor therapy, and it's called, which is very limbic calming. So to get into the deeper parts of our brain, we want to take 5 minutes in the morning and evening to rock back and forth, whether it's side to side or front to front, doesn't matter. But what you want to do is notice the calming of your body, okay? So getting into the deeper regions, we want to calm the body. See how you go, try it. And look, I know for me it's calming. I can be out in public and I find myself rocking back and forward. It's very, very calming. It helps me process what's happening around me, okay? Especially if I'm in the middle of a busy shopping centre or something, I have to wait. I just stand there and next thing you know, I'm rocking back and forward because it's very calming, okay? Find music or tones of music, with or without words, that bring you into a state of calmness. I actually, some years ago, bought, I don't know what it's called, but basically I'll play it every night, and it's notes, obviously joined together to create music, but help you heal, help the brain heal, help the body heal, etc., etc. And I was very skeptical about whether this would work or not. But what actually happened was it did work, combined with me using slow breathing techniques at night, plus the music at night, the tones. It helped me regain, over time, it helped me regain the ability to be able to sleep at night, okay? So find something that works for you that will help you go through the process of calming the body, calming the mind, and giving you access to the deeper regions of the brain so that you heal. All right? Excuse me. Practice deep breathing in sequences of 3. For example, breath, 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 rest, and then 3 breaths, okay? Now, that's good, that works, but I also use 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out. I do that 6 times, and that's 1 minute, okay? I used to give myself 1 minute every night. And when we do that, we begin to be aware of how tense our body is, and we want to feel the breath going in as far as we can. Okay, and obviously out again and in. Now, I found over time that I was able to increase it from 1 minute to 2, etc., etc. And it did really help, not just calm my body, but it helped me calm my mind, okay? Because when you're triggered, the anxiety trigger goes off like a frog in a sock, and the thoughts just come left, right, and centre, and it's just bombarding. But the more I did this, the more I was able to do it in public when I would get triggered, and it made it possible for me to continue to expand how long I was in public, etc., etc. I spent 2.5 years in bedridden, and had no cognitive function. Couldn't walk, couldn't talk after the 2.5 years. And so I've had to do a lot of work to regain all of my cognitive function. So I can guarantee that the breathing does work. Participate in some form of exercise for 12 to 15 minutes per day to increase the serotonin and dopamine. And we know already that if we do that, it helps us feel better. But what I want you to do is when you're exercising, because it will happen, it happens for me, is really get to know your breath work, really get to feel when you get triggered, and use your breath work to keep you focused on your mindset about being mindful and right in the now, and ride the way through the anxiety attack, okay? So even today, I changed up what I do at gym. I just ride a bike, but what I did was lower my starting point, okay? And just from doing that alone, my brain goes, you're not safe, triggers an anxiety attack. But what I did was breathe through it. I became aware of my body. So I'm aware that my brain's triggered and going off like a frog in a sock. You've got perspiration dripping off you, and I hate perspiration. I'm a girl. I just don't like sweaty, stinky stuff. But it's coming out, and I'm aware that I can't get a good deep breath into my chest. So what I do is just keep focusing on the breathing and calming. My self-talk is all based around I am safe, of building up the I am safe feeling from within, and remembering good things that have happened, good memories, all the things that I can do if I feel any more unsafe. So what I can do, I'm capable of getting off this bike and going home, okay? I can ring someone, I can get off this bike and go and ring a member of my family or a friend, and it's taking back my power over what the brain thinks is happening, because it's not happening. And look, I can be as happy as. And, I was driving along the car one day, got triggered, and I'm like, went through all the things that are happening in my day, and I'm like, but I'm happy. Everything that's happening in my life, I'm happy. But again, it comes down to the change. Just because I'm happy all the time, the brain's going, no, that's change, right? Triggered. So we've got to take back our power and work through this. Okay, participate in 5 to 10 minutes of prayer or meditation each day, as the spiritual center of the brain is an area that is able to influence and calm the deeper regions of the brain. Okay, so every morning I wake up and I read something that is inspirational to me, and then I spend time going through how it's inspirational to me, how I want to apply it to my life that day, what's happening for me, and getting a deep heart sense of growing closer to the divine, of understanding the power that's there, and so much more. It's not just a quick exercise, okay? So think about things that you want to do to get in touch with the spiritual part of your brain, okay? So things that we can do if we're just starting off on that is become aware of what the spiritual side of life means for you, okay? and go from there. I'm not going to say a lot about it because I really believe that everybody's journey on the spiritual side is their own journey. It's personal, often private for some people, and quite frankly, everyone's journey is different, and we need to take up that difference and embrace it. All right, that's been a lot of information today. Remember to go back and read through the information so that your brain, the logical part of your brain, gets a hand on it and a hang of what's happening through the process for you, okay? Any questions or comments, please leave them down below. If you're here for the replay, let's do #replay. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'm always happy to answer questions. And if I don't know the information, I will find it for you. Have a beautiful day if you're in the southern part of the world, and have a gorgeous evening if you're in the northern part of the world. Bye for now.